Well, we should get started. We do have a quorum, so I think people will jump in as they come along. So anyway, thank you all for being so flexible and changing the time. I think it actually worked out for everybody. Oh, Anne is here too, and Margot, welcome. So did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? I know that Chris had one correction that he had. I sent that over to Sue L. Did you get that correction from Chris about?
I did not, but I can go back and look at it before I submit.
Yeah, I think it was the approval of the minutes. He was not listed on there, and he had been, so he just needs to be added on for an I.
Okay.
Any
He joined late,
changes?
maybe that's why I missed him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any changes or corrections from anybody else?
Nope.
No.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from June 6th?
Sure.
Second?
We approve.
Second.
Anybody? Okay, good. All in favor. I guess we have to go through this individually. I say aye. Jennifer?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Sue L?
Aye.
Sue G?
Aye.
Sue B?
Aye.
I think that's it for all of us for now. So those are.
Change my name before the next meeting.
Yeah.
We need 1, 2, and 3.
Who was the person? Sorry, who was the person that seconded? I missed the.
I think I did.
Jen, it was
Jen.
Jennifer. Jennifer second. We're going to, I had gotten a request from Carlene, who's Carlene Hempel, who is on the Zoom with us tonight. She wants to do a presentation about some ideas for the Tea Cakes Plaza and hoped that she could go early on in the meeting. So we're going to do number 8 as number 2 for right now. So Carlene, you're with us?
Yes, thank you so much.
Great, sure, no problem.
Thanks everyone for letting me jump the agenda only because the day switch.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being
complicated.
flexible and being able to be here tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am so grateful to be able to come before you. And I just want to plant a seed. I don't have a formal presentation, but I wanted to begin a conversation with you that I started when I was on this committee a few years ago, and COVID interrupted some of our efforts. But I wanted to try to bring a conversation back to the fore, and I thought this was the right committee to sort of nestle this idea in, and it might be something that you all have been speaking about at length. And that is to create some more placemaking in the village, especially with the Tea Cakes Plaza. I've been involved in that plaza since its inception, and have shepherded a number of things with it, the mural, the furniture on it, the sun sails that are there, the creation of the, helped with Dory, helped design the gardens around it. And I now am responsible. I chair the garden committee that watches over it. So it's close to my heart, and I'll continue to shepherd as much as I can with it, as long as I can. But my worry or my sadness about that plaza is that I don't think people understand it's a public park. I think people think it's only there for the patrons of the two businesses on either side. And I'm sure you all know the truth about that, but I don't think others know. And when Marcia was my partner in crime in everything that we did in the village, Marcia Rasmussen, who is such a champion for the village and such a loss to our town when she left, she was never an obstructionist. She always did everything she could to make things happen for West Concord Village. My having to step off your committee and also losing Marcia made me lose track of what I hope could be an effort to create signage I had once had Billy Crosby of Crosby Signs come down, and he imagined a really beautiful sort of wrought iron sign that would come out of the side of one of the buildings, and it would somehow name, and I don't think Concord names its parks often, but Marcia thought we could get around this only because wayfinding was near and dear to her heart. And so I wanted to see, I know that this committee has access to the ability to write grants, and that your sort of parent group, the state arts committee, often allows grants. I wrote a number of them for this very committee. And so I wanted to appeal to you to think about how we could create more of a sense of that being a community space there. And that would include the sign, and perhaps somewhat, I've been the one, like actually I and a friend have been putting up those sun sails and taking them down every year. And it just got too much this year. There were a couple of heavy rains, and the rains made them fall. And then I just didn't want to be responsible for them anymore. So I reached out to CPW and said, could you please take this over? And we're in negotiation for that. So there's that. So that, and then just a couple of prongs to this, and then I'll hush up. The other sort of component of that, I think, is the green space next to the Performing Arts Center, which is also public space. And also, I don't think people understand that, and I'm sure you all do. But what an incredible what it's just so incredible to have green lawn space like that, where we could have concerts and all sorts of stuff there, and then the public parking in between. Again, I don't think people understand that the parking lot next to the dry cleaner is public, is open, free parking. I don't think people think that. I think they think it's for the dry cleaner, and it absolutely isn't. So we have like a trio, like a triptych of 3 open public spaces that I think people don't know about, and the potential for those 3 things are extraordinary. So I just wanted to bring that to you and ask you if there's any way I could help, or we could brainstorm, or just think about what we could do.
I had no idea about any of that.
Um,
I'm sorry, I just want to understand, these spaces are owned by the town?
Yes, the
But
plaza.
nobody takes care of them from the town?
The Green Thumbs takes care of the gardens and the pots on the by special request. The town will come and take the furniture on tea cakes every year and deposit it back. But no, I and my friend Corey Pack have been putting up the sun sails. No one needs to take care of the parking lot. And I suspect Lisa Evans has her landscapers mow the green. I'm going like this because it's at the end of my street, the green space down the Performing Arts Center. I suspect she just takes care of that.
Wait, so when you're talking Performing Arts Center, you're talking
Yeah,
about
where's that?
The K to Ford. The K to
you're
Ford.
talking about Concord Youth Theater. Okay, that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that
okay.
green, that hill, you're saying the green hill that goes down, that's public space?
Yes, it is.
Never heard that.
Yep.
Never really understood until this year about the plaza, because we were trying to figure out for Porch Fest.
Yeah.
And which parking lot are you referring to by the
You
dry?
know how there's a Veda, or it's not,
Yes.
and then there's the dry cleaner. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
next to the dry
So
cleaner is a
next,
fairly significant parking lot that goes around the back.
right.
All of
That's
that is
upper.
town property, free
Okay.
parking, all of it.
The green
Who pays
space.
for the furniture?
I did. So when Chris Whalen and I proposed the town meeting article that created the plaza, we won $100,000, and then the town matched that. The town has been extraordinary in the creation of that plaza. So for $200,000, that plaza was built. And as part of it, Rich Rain, the former head of CPW, gave me $2,500 to spend on street furniture for that plaza. So I bought that furniture, the 2 Adirondack chairs. There's one green, there's one red, and I bought the sun sails, the 4 different color sun sails for $2,500. Oh, and I also had that, I found a guy in Boxborough who built that 8-foot by 8-foot table in the middle. And my husband goes down and sands it every year when we restain it. I mean, it's just us, it's just ad hoc, but I would love for the town to, to sort of take a little bit more ownership of it.
So one thing to clarify, because hi Carleen, because I had emailed with you from the your exchange with Public Works. They kind of dug into it, and there's a kind of a tiny little sliver of that park in between, but it's actually not town property, and I can show folks on the map. It's owned by the 2 property owners, and there's just a little sliver that allows for a right of way through it. So that the town can't, taking on the sun sales seems like an easy thing for them to do, but it's not, because of how procurement rules. Taking it up and down is considered construction. So it ends up being incredibly complicated. And it's attached to private property, which is
Yes,
also
that's
like
true.
this thing
That's
of
true.
liability. So it really, it's not so easy for the town to get involved. If it's volunteers doing it, they can do whatever and work with the property owner.
Mimi, the strips on either side are part of the footprint of the buildings, but the center of that, because the town did all of that work, where the pavers are, that's the town right of way. I mean, it was town money that put in that plaza.
I can share with you the map if folks want to kind of see. Here, let me see if I can do a little shared screen here.
So if we wanted to get involved with anything there, we would have to work with the 2 property owners also.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Can folks see my screen here?
It's
Yeah.
small. Can
No, you can't see it?
Can you
Yeah.
enlarge it, Mimi?
Yeah, hang on. For some reason, it's not responding for me.
She's showing something personal.
Depth enough on all these. See which window I had open. There it is. All right. Oh no. Sorry, when I have the Zoom open, it's not letting me through here. Hang on. I just done the My Maps online. Sorry.
While Mimi looks, I just want to say, Carleen, thank you for your work. I can't tell you how many hours my young sons and I have spent in that plaza. Usually we just buy a pastry because I did think that it was owned by those businesses, and so we tried to support them anyway. But really, it's such a nice place to congregate.
Oh, and I'm so happy to hear that. And that was the spirit of what this partnership with CPW and the town manager was to open it up to the community. And that's why they spent so much time and money creating that area. With the idea, again, Mimi's correct, that the strips on either side, but I think.
So this little plaza, number 1.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's not owned by the town. It's owned by George Vernet.
Yes, George. And then the town has the right of way through it, which is what allowed them to put all of those pavers in and create the plaza.
So they own just this little strip in between that's only a couple feet wide.
The town owns that little strip
Yep,
off to the side.
yep.
Who is George Burnett?
He owns the buildings on either side.
Yeah, he owns this one. He just has like a corporate name for it.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing this. Maybe it's
Sorry,
my.
anybody can go online. If you go to mymapsonline.net and then look for Concord, it's got all the different map records.
All right, it was my issue on the screen, but so what are we discussing right now? You're saying, Mimi, it's just that the area that the town owns is a narrow strip?
So the question about whether this is public or private property, and I think the town has been recognized that it's kind of nice that the property owner has been willing to make it open to the public. And I think there's interest in helping to support activities there. But in terms of like the, just clarifying about whether it's public or private, you know, if the property owner said like, no, this is customers only, they have the right to do that. Just sort of clarifying a little bit that, because I had gone in and found the records where they had paid for the furniture and things like that. And it was sort of part of a placemaking initiative to serve as a public park, but it's technically not a public park. And I'm getting some pushback from Public Works when I've been asking them to support things, because they're like, that's private property. You know, we don't have full rights. They can do it as like a grant, which is like helping to supply the furniture, but they don't want to kind of overextend in terms of what kind of maintenance they're able to do.
Okay.
So
But
technically, if we were to raise money for, say, a big sign, a nice ironwork sign out front and give it a name, at any time, the owners could say, this is private property now.
Well, sort of similar how we did the murals, kind of
Yeah.
having an agreement with the property owner and say, will you let us keep it on there for, you know, however long a period of time?
Right. Okay.
Well, would it be a sign that acknowledges that George, whoever has shares this property or has shared this property with the community to use as a public space?
I don't know, Carlene, this is your idea. One thing is, I don't know if folks that knows that there's new owners of tea cakes. That they're trying to do it a little bit on the down low. So that's another kind of potential partners that we could engage to kind of help spark it up.
My thought is not to give a nod to the businesses, but to make it clear, sort of, you know, all are welcome to that space, which was, again, the spirit with which the space was created. I mean, you know, a lot of money went into, a lot of town money, all taxpayer money. There was no private funding, went into creating that plaza, you know. And so, I mean, essentially, you know, where the bollards are back, is what the town paid for to create. And so, and you know, I have worked with George. I haven't spoken to George in years because the work was done years ago, but I worked very closely with George and would suspect that he wouldn't have a problem, though I don't know for sure, but that he wouldn't have a problem with the installation of some sort of signage. And it could be at the back of the plaza, or it could be at the front of the plaza, you know. I mean, that's when Billy Crosby was also interested in the idea of something behind the plaza, you know, that sort of, you know, that you could see across the plaza as you walked, or you know, right out front.
Who is
So,
Billy Crosby?
sorry,
Who is Billy Crosby?
he is down at the end of Bradford Street. He's a beloved and well-known sign maker in,
Oh, right, I know. Okay.
yeah.
Arlene, what did you have in mind for calling this plaza, or have you thought about what the sign might say?
I'm not, again, the town, I don't think, is really too much in the business of naming its parks. It doesn't generally do that. And so, like, for example, we have Junction Park, as you know, Helene.
Mhm. Mandrioli.
Mandrioli, but
Park.
are there signs there that
There's a sign that says Mandrioli Mini
Right.
Park.
right? And is there a sign on Junction?
No.
I don't think so.
I never knew it was called that until Porch Fest.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh my God, seriously?
Someone's excited about this presentation.
Wow.
I
So
think Eric might need to mute. Yeah, thank you.
So I think we don't have the best record for that because it's, and I remember that from, when I was helping with Porch Fest, it's hard to tell people where to go when, when we were starting the concerts that were in Harvey Wheeler every Thursday night before they moved to Rideout. We wanted to put them in Junction, but we're worried people wouldn't know. Like there's a lack of that sort of wayfinding that I think plagues the village, and that's not helping anybody. It's not helping the residents who might want to go to something, and it's not helping the business owners. But I think, I think that there is an opportunity here, and I think that historically there was support in the town for this sort of wayfinding for all of these spaces. And Margot sat with me on your committee way back when we were talking about this at length, and so she has some nice historical perspective on that too. Hi, Margot.
Well, it seems
Hello,
to me
Carlene,
that
and thank you for all that you've done for our little village.
Oh, thank you.
it seems to me that before we would take anything on and go into this, if everybody thinks this is something we want to pursue, naming these parks, the first thing we have to do is, if Tea Cakes has a new owner, talk to the new owner and talk to George.
Yeah.
And find out if they really are okay with us going ahead and doing something more.
Yeah.
In that space. Does that sound right, Mimi?
Sure. I also, typically around this time of year, the committee sort of looks at its work plan for the year.
Yeah.
So, maybe we want to take on a whole like public space naming effort, just sort of thinking a little bit. I just got the notice from the Mass Cultural Council that the applications are open to receive they're going to give us $15,000 again this year. So that's good. Every year it's sort of like, are they going to do it or not? So it's nice to know that funding's coming in.
As part of when we were in an effort to create more street furniture in the village for exactly these sorts of reasons, we, Margot and I and the other members created a little sort of donation campaign where we had little boxes in the businesses and invited people who wanted a place to sit in the village to give some money, and we collected about $785. And Helen, from the flower shop is holding that, and that's still part of that effort. So it's a small amount of money, but it is part of this sort of street furniture effort that started with this committee. And every year I check in with her, is that money still there? And she says it's there. So, to start your budget, that's already there and waiting for you.
That's great to know. I wanted to ask, so the park that's to the left of the Performing Arts Center, am I thinking about it correctly that there's just basically a hedge, like a wall that's sort of, it's a deterrent? I just know personally, having young children, when we're looking for a space to play in that area, we go to that little place behind Fowler Library. There's like a tiny little children's area. But it's very small, and I think that if people knew that they had access, but physically, I can't think of a way that you could enter that area without sort of going up the steps of the Performing Arts Center. Am I correct?
Yes, but our thought was that at least parents, my neighborhood, I'm on Highland Street. All of our kids are aged out. I have a 14-year-old now, but when we had little wee kids, we'd all bring them over there, and we appreciated the hedge because they could slide down. They wouldn't go flying into the street like it was a sledding hill but I think, nobody here uses that way anymore. And what our thought was, meaning our collective, Margot and I and the other group, was remove some of the hedge. Like some parents would like the idea of the hedge being a barrier for their kids, but remove some of it and again, make it clear. And, we could, and Mimi is better at this than I, but we could look up, it's actually, I think it's like a 99-year lease. It as part of the historic district, that property is technically controlled by the town, but it's only for, I'll be dead and gone, but it's only 99 years. It's not forever, but that was the relationship that was struck when that one little spot became an historic district. Joanne Gibson led that effort from Our Ladies to Our Lady's, the Catholic Church, to what it is now. Just I wanted to be clear, Anne, but
Oh.
already there's a little spot down there. And if you ever walk by it on, I don't know, Thursday afternoons, there are 4 men that go there and sit around and play chess, I think, or something.
Oh,
So
that's lovely.
someone knows.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if,
Yeah.
because I certainly appreciate, especially along a busy road, having something to corral young children. But what about just taking out one little plant and having a gate?
Agreed.
That could open and shut just like at a playground
Perfect.
or anywhere else. And that on the gate itself, we could have a little sign saying
Exactly.
whatever park or Ellen Garrison Park. You know, there's a lot of momentum around naming things after her right now. Maybe
Yeah.
people would get behind that. I don't know.
Mimi,
know,
do you have that space on a map?
Yeah, according to the map I've got, it looks like it's not owned by the town, but I don't know what kind of the arrangements are for that one.
Right.
But it's showing, when I look up the property record, it says it's Atune Holdings LLC.
Mhm.
Oh, Acton's Holdings. Okay, so they own the building, right?
Well,
Mhm.
that's- sorry, once again, I've got this weird little thing with the, because it pops up too high for me to see. Yeah, so this looks like that's the park. This is the dry cleaners. This is the parking lot, and this is the edge of the property. So it's the church in that whole lawn.
So in a sense, are they contiguous enough that you could create, like if you took down one of the, hedges or trees in the hedge or whatever and made a little fun pathway that you could create a mini greenway, that might be kind of cool to like show people to link it together and do something fun in that regard? Or is it broken up by some private property?
Wait, doesn't it, it's,
On that map, what part you were talking about, was it the part next to the parking lot?
Yeah.
Talking about
So
this one,
doesn't it-
Concord Youth Theater, right?
it sounds like from what Mimi's saying that Lisa Evans' organization owns the whole piece. I mean, I know they
Yeah.
building, so it sounds like they actually own the whole property. And I mean, I'm remembering back in the day, Carlene, when Lisa Evans took that over, and there was a time she seemed eager for the lawn to be used by people generally. And in fact, she said, she named the theater, she didn't name it Concord Youth Theater, even though everybody refers to it that way. She named it
The K DeFord, yeah.
yeah. And she said at the time it was because she actually wanted other people to use it, that this was, and yet I don't think anybody ever has. And
I
I
agree.
wondered about
That's
that.
interesting.
So I think it might be worth approaching Lisa and seeing, is this still something she'd like to see done, that lawn would
There you go.
be used more, and that the theater, I've often wondered about that, how wonderful it would, it's such a resource if she's really willing to share it.
Yes, I think I agree. I think that it was designated as a performing arts center by Lisa, and the idea being that other performances secondary to the Concord Youth Theater, but other performances would happen in there, that it would be a public space. And I think that there has to be a concerted effort to make that happen. And you can see the path in there to the green space now. Gee, I wish I had come to you a little bit more prepared to convince you or to show you that the town has some claim over this green space.
Well, why don't we, we're up to 7:30 at this point.
Okay,
So
okay.
quite a bit of time on this, which is very valuable and really very interesting to find all this out. But I think we need to do a little bit more exploring in
Yeah.
terms of, what is available, who's going to work on this, if we decide to do that, how much is all of this going to cost? Do we have it in our budget? Can we do this on a, several year basis or, whatever? But I think this is great that we're finding out about it. But we definitely need more information, more definitive information. Maybe, Carlene, between you and Mimi, maybe
Yeah,
figure out just what is available and what people are thinking about what they might want to do with this property. And certainly the signage, I think, is an easy part. I think we do need to find out is Junction Park, does Junction Park have a sign? If they don't, they really need one. And then something for the plaza for sure. And then certainly there would be a great potential for that green space once we find out exactly who owns it and, you know, what we might or might not be able to do.
Thank you, Helene. I just wanted to start the conversation to see if this is in fact the place to begin. And it sounds like you're somewhat receptive, and I'll come back to you with a more formal idea of what one might do in these areas.
Perfect,
Well,
great.
If
Good.
the committee is okay with it, because I mean, one of the projects I was going to suggest was signage, like on historical buildings and for the parks and whatever. And if you guys are okay with it, I'm willing to work with Carlene and at least talk to the people we'd have to talk to and see if it's even feasible to go forward with this idea.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to start doing that. I think that we'll need to discuss it as a committee more formally once you get more information.
But I don't think it's worth doing a lot of work until we know if it's really
Right.
feasible. So
Exactly.
Right.
if you're
right.
willing to work with me, Carlene, I'm happy
I'd
to
love it,
go
Sue.
and talk to people.
I'd love it. What's your last name so I can
Beck,
pluck?
B-E-C-K. I'll send you an email.
Okay, all right. Well,
Okay.
thank you all. It was my pleasure to be before you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlene.
Okay, take care.
All righty, you too. See ya. Okay, so next we have the discussion of the artist directory project, which was Mimi and Sue B. who had worked on that. So Mimi, did you want to talk about that?
I'll let Sue take the lead on this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Mimi and I got together and we discovered when we did the signal boxes that it was really hard for us to know how to get in touch with artists. So Mimi found Creative Ground, which is it's sponsored by the New England Foundation for the Arts and Mass Cultural Council is part of that. And it's a free networking site where artists can register. So we decided, and once they are registered, you can go in there and you can search by town, you can search by type of artist. So we identified a bunch of people that we thought we would like to have them register and figured out how do we get the word out. So Mimi put it on social media. I put it on Nextdoor. We had a flyer. I went to every arts place I could find in Lexington, to the libraries. I went to Acton and did some in Bedford, and all around Concord. Found some art places in Concord I didn't even know existed. Found some in Acton I didn't know existed. And the artists, all the artist groups that I talked to were really receptive and said that they would put the word out. Some of them had 4,000 artists on their websites. So hopefully we are getting the word out for people to register. And Mimi and I are both taking a workshop, or you already took one, right? I'm taking one tomorrow on how to use the Creative Ground site. And then hopefully the next time we need artists, we'll have an easy time finding them.
Great, great. That's perfect.
Yeah, so we've had a net increase of 10 artists on the list. So right now on the Creative Ground site, we've got 89 different both organizations and individual artists listed. And part of the thing I did with Creative Ground was right now it's just basically a directory that's got, they cover all of New England. And which is good, instead of creating our own directory, it's part of theirs so that, it got a higher, Google search thing and people know to go there. So like when we were doing the call for artists in Concord Center, I went to all the sculptors on that and was able to reach out to them. They have approved Concord to be part of their cohort of, they have like usually 2 or 3 communities at a go that they'll partner with us and let us kind of scrape their data. So meaning that on either Visit Concord, or if we created our own website, the town website's too clunky, but if we created like a WordPress site, that we could have basically take the listings that people have already made on Creative Ground and put them on our website. So we would only show the Concord entities. So people only have to update it one place, and they would keep all kinds of back-end data for us of like, this is how people found you, kind of some of this typical Google analytics. but that they kind of help do some other ones where we can, organize the artists. We kind of have to do similar to their categories, but we could pull out our own. So for example, one group did, you highlighted LGBTQIA artists in particular. We could kind of lay it out in a really kind of fun, funky way with like what their profiles, pictures, and that sort of looks like. So I haven't gone further other than to just, we can do it whenever we want and then can work out the logistics.
So continue to encourage all the artists, musicians, everybody to create a profile. Okay. That was that.
Wait, one question about that. So
Yeah.
you just said that. What do we send people that we know something in particular? Do you have a link or?
They just go to creativeground is it net? .net.
.org.
.org. Creativeground.org.
Right. It would be cool if there was some sort of promotional thing that you could
Well, I
give.
sent out all kinds of promotional things. Believe me, they're at the library. They're on the bulletin boards.
Did you send it to us, Sue, and I just missed it?
Maybe. Yeah, I'll send it again.
Will you? Okay.
Sure.
I just want to make a very quick, amusing comment that artists are really kind of a pain because they don't tend to join stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Really, it's a big, and I was really excited. I'm really excited about this. I'm really glad you guys are doing it. And I did put it in our latest newsletter, a link to the whole thing. You have a nice graphic. And then I have to admit, I haven't actually done it myself, but I will.
Okay. I can send you the digital copy of that if you want. Did I send that to you? I'll send it again.
I'm not sure. Send it to me again. And because I have a short list. I mean, I send out a big mass mailing, but people often don't pay any attention or they don't respond to it. So if you give me a good something or other, I'll send it to my short list of people who really ought to do it, including.
Okay, I will. Okay. So moving on, what's next?
Next is Mimi with a discussion concerning the Concord Center Cultural District connecting with Concord Local Cultural District. So that change that came upon us. Mimi, would you?
The select board last Monday updated the charge. So folks probably know there's the Local Cultural Council, which was a committee that gave out the little grants every fall with the funding from the Mass Cultural Council. So that's, the $150 to $500 grants. That committee was given a new name of the Concord Cultural Council with an expanded charge of continuing on with those small grants, but also managing the Concord Center Cultural District. So there had been separate committees, so now they basically the select board is trying to consolidate committees. And they're also thinking that this group would also help kind of be able to take some leadership in terms of thinking about big grants and ways to help the town overall. So while it's got a mission to help under the cultural district of Concord Center, it also wants to think a little bit about how to be able to do some better coordination. Some of the stuff that's happening through the 250th right now, we want to kind of keep that momentum going further. So we're going to try to look at how we can leverage the arts in a big way.
Amy, what were the two councils or the one, like Concord Cultural Council is the merged one, but what were the two that got combined?
So there's the Concord Local Cultural Council and the Concord Center Cultural District that then for a while was the Concord Center Cultural Task Force because it was supposed to, its whole charge was just to get rid of itself and figure out who else to take over that mission. So now it's just the Concord Cultural Council.
Okay.
And
So
how
they're
many
gonna get the $9,000 for the grants plus the $15,000 for their cultural district.
Yeah.
That's it.
And they can sort of similar to this committee, either execute the projects themselves, do a call for artists. They'll have to figure out. They're probably going to keep their attention on the local grants for right now, the mini ones, because that's right now they're doing the call for applications. We'll be doing that through the fall. So they'll be looking for some new members, most likely to start in January.
But
And
they'll
two-
get this year's $15,000, right?
Sorry, say that again?
They'll get this year's $15,000 for okay, got it. Okay,
Okay, great. Sidewalk decal update, Anne, you're on.
Yeah, so where do I start? Most of you have seen our sample decal,
looks
which
great.
advertises the poetry phone, Jen's poetry phone. I just found out it took a while to get it physically on the sidewalk once it was in the hands of Public Works. And I was just informed by Mimi that it actually was not applied in the way that is recommended, which is with a heat gun. It was just, correct me if I'm wrong, Mimi, just sort of affixed like a sticker. Is that
Yeah,
right?
just like a sticker, because I went and said like, how'd it go with the heat gun? And they're like, we didn't do the heat gun. We just peel and stuck it on there.
So yeah, so there's good news and bad news there. I mean, the good news is that it's holding up really well, and they didn't actually have to go through, any great lengths to apply it. So one could feasibly just do it oneself. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a very involved thing, and you wouldn't have to get somebody who had specialized knowledge in applying these. I think that the bad news is that Public Works is still not completely on board with the scale of what we're going for. At this point, what I've done is I've talked to different arts organizations in town. They're excited. We're definitely going to be able to get the submissions. I created a Google form to submit that I can send to the committee and to give feedback. Mimi's already given me some helpful feedback that I need to incorporate before I send it out. And then I'm working on developing a flyer that will have a QR code similar to the poetry phone, where people can link to this Google form, which would be hosted on the town's website, where they can submit their artwork. So I think the issue at this point is that the town needs some convincing that this is, viable and safe and everything else. And so I think we just need to sit down with them and show them exactly where each specific decal is going to go. And so I know Chris has already sent me some measurements and rough maps, and Carol did as well. So I need to just go through and I think use some sort of software to literally cordon off like exact rectangles on a map and then bring it to the town. And Mimi has offered to go with me and sit down with them and really talk about the plan. Yeah, so I guess I digress, but so the good news is the decals look really good. It was up all summer, so under the heat and everything else. And at this point, it hasn't even been applied in a way that it is considered, like the gold standard for application. And the town has, there's evidence that this is a viable thing. No one has slipped on it or anything like that. And there's already, public interest, and we have, because of the poetry phone and what we've learned about submissions and all of that, there's like already a sort of an infrastructure in place to get those submissions in. So, and there are people interested also in being on the committee to, review those submissions and make selections. So all of those things are good, but I guess the next steps are just that we need to make sure that we have the town's buy-in before we can really move forward.
And do you have an idea of how many you're proposing to the town at this point, or haven't you given them a number?
I think it was 75. So I'm still unclear actually, because I was told that if I kept it under
10,000.
10,000, yeah, then I could like bypass all that. So I wasn't, because at one point I had been going to individual vendors and trying to have them give me these very specific quotes. So some of it depends on how many the town is actually, so I can definitely keep it under 10,000, but how many the town is willing to allow us to put up. Because at this point, it sounds like they're a little bit reticent to work with the scope of what I had originally envisioned. But at the same time, if we don't have enough to really make it an art loop, then it's not really like a cohesive installation either. So we sort of have to come to a place where, I don't know, maybe we both give a little bit, but I don't know exactly what is possible at this point with the town, and Mimi probably has a better idea than I do. There was a separate thing this summer where there was grant money for the 250th, and so I thought, great, let's just make these let's make the art submissions like 250th themed. And so I wrote a grant hoping that I could get this funded through that. And then there was just a lot of pushback, some politics. And so I ended up not submitting that grant, despite having it finished, for, sort of whatever reasons. So anyway, so the good news is that then that opens us up again to accepting more art, and not necessarily dictating the subject matter of it. So silver lining.
If Mimi, do you think if we got testimonials from these other towns that have done this, that would help?
I think, well, two things. One, I think once we have it laid out where they're going to be, I think, the Public Works, they're a group of engineers. They love all the details, and they really want to make sure that it's not going to have any negative impact. So I think once we come to them with the maps and show exactly where they're going to be, and to be able to say, like, whether it's 75 or 100 or 50, like, this is why we came up with that number, and it's going to move along this way, and it's going to tell a story, that I think
Right.
that's a key thing. So right, the more kind of explanation we can give them, it makes everybody feel better. I feel like oftentimes some of these conversations come from a place of anxiety because people don't quite know what we mean exactly, and like, where are these decals going to be? So that's one. I think the other thing is that I did connect the Public Works staff with the Public Works people in other towns
Oh, you
who
did?
went and said, like, no problem, easy peasy. That didn't assure them. They've got a thing of, like, all the materials should be like robust roadway materials. So a sidewalk decal, it's like, that's not what we do. It's sort of like we put in, the standard stuff off a state contract. Like,
God's sake.
they really wanted to know, like, exactly what kind of plastic and exactly what kind of adhesive, and that it be the standard for what happens on a roadway. And this is a different kind of thing, and it makes them nervous if it's something unusual that they haven't worked with, that's not rated for municipal use. So
And there you are.
So we will.
So do you need help, Anne, to get this map and all that put together? Tell us what you need.
Yeah, I'm just trying to conceptualize. So Chris had helpful suggestions about spacing, and Carol had also sent me something that I need to revisit. I guess I'm trying to figure out what kind of, even though I'm like my generation is supposed to be really tech savvy, I'm not. So I just like, in terms of actually mocking it up in a way that's not just like my artist's rendition, like, yeah, they'll be like, around there. It sounds like these guys want really specific visuals of so I'm not even sure, like, if I should solicit like outside help for that. If maybe I should like contact the high school and see if somebody wants to do get volunteer hours assisting me with this. By the way, is that allowed? If I offered a student volunteer hours for assisting me in my capacity as a committee member. Could I do that?
As long as you're not
Sounds like
taking
it.
bribes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds
I
like
mean,
community service.
I think they should be able to even get community service hours.
That's what I mean. Like that would
Yeah.
be their incentive is like, can you help me with this? I don't know how to do it. And I will sign off on your community service hours as a committee member. I just
That's a
wanted to
great
make sure I
idea.
could do that. Okay.
Yeah, I would check with the high school and make sure, but it sounds like a legitimate,
There wouldn't be an issue with our committee though.
oh no.
No, I
Okay.
think it sounds like a great idea.
Okay. And then my other question, I'm sure that one of the trainings I did last fall covered it, but if I want to send out something like, can you take a look? Because I know that there's like the public meeting minutes things where you're not supposed to email everybody on the committee at once, because then it's like you're conducting business. But what if I want you all to view a link of something that I've mocked up? Can I send that out and then just ask you to reply individually? Is that the protocol?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it, Mimi?
Mimi, what do you say on
Yeah,
that?
it's basically, yeah, you can't talk to everybody at once. So, the chairs can, usually it's best practice for the chairs to send it out. And then either you could talk to folks, separately. Hearing a little bit about if, once you said you were measuring the sidewalks and things like that, maybe to save you a bunch of trouble, I could talk to the engineering department, and they probably have the drawings on CAD. I don't know if there's high school students, so then, they can get to use some real CAD files and mock it out, and it'll be, you're not having to like make sure you do it the same size. They can just kind of cut and paste, and that might help a little bit.
That sounds great.
I wonder,
Thank you.
is there a teacher at the high school who works with CAD? Who's doing, I don't know if anybody here knows, there might be a specific teacher who would know the students who'd
Right.
be excited about doing that.
Does everybody know what CAD is? I don't.
It's basically like this 3D drawing thing that engineers use. So they
Oh,
do
okay.
that for construction. They architects use it.
Architects, designers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Just stands
Thank
for
you.
computer aided design, I think, right?
Yeah.
I know that the high school has a special engineering track, right? So maybe I'll just figure out who is in charge of that and then ask them to put me in touch with whomever might be the best fit.
That seems like
So
a good way to
which
go.
blocks are you looking to do, Anne? Just so as I get the sidewalks, get the drawings for you.
So Commonwealth, between, I think we had talked about basically, the flower shop to the corner of, the old 99, now the West Village Tavern, and then across the street to, Woods Hill, and then back again, kind of that loop, that half mile loop.
So on each side of Commonwealth Avenue.
Yeah, the idea, the vision was to make it a loop so that people could traverse the whole downtown, basically.
So you were not thinking about putting it like out on Harrell Street or anything on Bruce Freeman Ridge or anything like that?
Okay, any more discussion on the details? Thank you so much, Anne. It's been a huge undertaking and we really appreciate all that you've done.
Pleasure.
Jen, Poetry Phone update.
Yeah, so we have now the second series of poems are up. And this series will run until October. I've got to come up with a specific date that they'll change over, but each series so far has run for about for 2 months. With the help with Art for All and with Mike, we've done updating some signage. So we've not only got the signage that is cautioning people to slow down on their bikes for the poetry, but Mike did a sign that says, new poems. I think that what I'm learning here, the trick is going to be how we keep, people coming back and hearing a new set of poems and knowing that there's a new set of poems up. And so I did try and get the bridge to list that we had who the new poems are and that we had a whole new set of poems, and they didn't want to. They said we just reported on the poetry phone booth and did the big feature. And so, we're not going to be able to do this constantly kind of thing throughout the year. So that was a little bit disappointing. I didn't push hard on them, but it does leave me, I think, with a challenge about how do we keep it, how do we keep people coming back and checking up? And how do I better promote the local poets who are being featured? Because right now I feel like they're not, I want to make sure that the people who are being featured get more visibility and that people are more aware that it's constantly changing. So
The libraries do a weekly sort of newsletter. I wonder if you could add that on, onto one of their
yes,
weeklies. They have sort of a calendar with things going on, maybe, I think it reaches a lot of people, and that might be one way.
Dory might do that, but I know the Concord Center Library says they don't do stuff like that.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I
Huh.
asked them if they could send the flyer out. And we don't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
So
they might put it on their calendar, just saying,
I don't know. You can ask.
October 15th, the, new poems are going to be available on the poetry.
they do
That's-
consider themselves a partner of the project, so they might be more inclined.
Maybe.
Right.
It's one of the projects that I thought we should think about, and if we do that, something with that park is to, we need one of those kind of information gazebos like they have in Paris. A West Concord information gazebo.
Right.
You can
Yes,
put
I was
things like
thinking
that up
about
there.
that. Some sort of signage that, that changes, but that's, check out, or that we would point them towards a variety of things that we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we need there.
I honestly just have to say, I haven't given it enough focus time. I'm in full, disclosure, very consumed right now with Concord Indivisible things until we get through November.
Well.
But I think this is my winter project, and I'd love to work with folks here, hear your ideas of just about how to approach it, just to make it more visible and particularly for the poets.
It looks so cute. The landscaping that you've done, the
Oh,
window
yeah, it
box
looks
that's
great.
already, it looks so cute. And it made me think it would be cute to sort of jazz it up as the holidays. I always do things like on my front porch, I sort of porchscape, and I was thinking like, what if we stick a spider on there around Halloween? Like what if we do like something that's sort of like, wait a minute, that wasn't there before. And it's sort of like, oh yeah, let's revisit that. It feels like something's fresh, something's happening there. And it would just be sort of be like a low cost, or maybe people even have stuff. But like I would love to go over there with some spider web stuff and
Right.
make it a little creepy. And then around the holidays, we could add some, mistletoe might be weird, but like something that's kind of like
Well,
it's like there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, and also related to that, I need to check with Mike because we were talking about landscaping more so around. Yes, we have the flower boxes, but doing more plantings around it, and maybe the plantings around it can have more thematic rather than putting it on the phone booth, which for some reason I'm hesitating about. But around that space maybe has a kind of a changing look. Good thought.
Jen,
Also,
can I just say, who read the poems? Did the authors read them, or did
Yeah.
you?
no, the authors.
Okay, well, my only suggestion is, as a theater person and someone who tried listening to the poems, and I almost fell asleep before I got to the end of one.
Oh,
They need a little coaching.
which you should tell me which ones.
Well,
you
I
have
don't
a reaction
remember,
to.
but it was
Yeah.
very slow and it was hard
Yeah.
to listen to.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I would just suggest to them that you don't have to read poetry like this is a poem. You read it like you would read a story. And the
They
poetry
do,
comes
just so you
through.
know, they do get instructions of
Okay.
what we recommend, and it didn't strike. So poets have all different ways of
Yeah,
reading
yeah.
their poems, and there's some poets, you know, and I go to the readings at the library who make an enormous effort to detach their personality from their reading. And then others do, you know, these extraordinarily theatrical readings. So it's very much about that person's philosophy.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you
So,
go.
by the way, my
Right.
mom is one of the poets right now. I
Uh-huh.
recommend listening to her poem, which is quite good.
Mhm.
And you know, and my mom's actually a really good reader. She's made a point of making it interesting. But I was concerned about the fact that it was just me holding my cell phone up and her listening to it. And I mean, I listened to it back on my phone. I have to admit, I haven't listened to it back on the poetry, and I should go listen to it because I think it's a fairly, I think it's kind of tinny. You know, I don't know how much of a difference that makes to people listening to it, that the sound quality coming off of my phone is, you know, maybe not as pleasant as it could be. But I don't know if that's just adding another layer of too much complexity to, you know,
It is not stereo recording.
record these with a better system. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. You
Yeah.
should listen to it on the phone if
I
you could,
will. I'll go
and
do
let me know
that.
if you still feel that way. I mean, the phone recording is going to be even more limited, the sound quality, than your iPhone.
Mm.
These iPhones really have very good sound
Mhm.
compared to what a payphone, you know, these phones have. And it's a mono recording, it's not a stereo recording. So, but it would be, I would love you to listen again and let me know if it still sounds, we could compare a studio recording that would ratchet up, you know, the complexity of the project. And it was actually when I talked to Ned Roos at CCHS, who runs the radio station, because originally with my background, I thought, oh, we need to do it in a recording studio. And Ned was like, no, do this on, everybody's got a good recorder on their phone. Do it on the iPhone. It'll be easy and you'll get great quality. So, but I will think about that more. And
And I'll take a listen and let you know.
okay.
Jen, given that it's getting, sadly to say, getting darker and darker early and earlier, have you considered like solar lights? You know, it might be cool, like it gets lit up on its own, doesn't cost anything, but that
When
might
you
be kind
walk
of,
in,
yeah.
good idea. Love that. Yeah. Solar auto lights. Okay, cool. I'll look into it.
Okay, we better move on. It's getting late.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jen. That's
Sure
it's a
thing.
great thing. It looks so cool and it's really a fun
Good.
addition.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Our next agenda item is Chris, who's not here, but I just sent everybody an email with an attachment that he wanted to discuss, which I guess we'll put off till next month, but it's regarding the brochure distribution. And it looks like he's got, you know, a bunch that were distributed in June, July, and August, and he may be looking for replenishing them sometime here in the fall. So I think we'll just put that off until next month and see what he wants to discuss about that. Has anybody seen them in the stores or anything, or?
Yeah, I did. And Janet Anderson over at how do you say it? Potager? She's giving them out like crazy when
Oh,
tourists
good.
comes in. She's a very good West
Good.
Concord champion.
good.
My dad picked up
She
one
was
and
she kept asking him for more, so
My dad picked up one and he immediately saw the poetry phone on it.
Oh.
Cool.
Good, 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 good. All right, so we'll skip that agenda item and go down to the outside the box, which is me. I've gotten terrific feedback from quite a number of people when they first were done, and I think they look great, and I'm just really pleased with the project and all the help that we had in doing that. So thank you everyone for helping with that. We are going to do a little celebration on Fall into West Concord Day, which is October 19th. And I've tentatively scheduled that for 1 p.m. Perhaps in Junction Park might be a good central area for that. We'll just invite the artists to come at 1 o'clock, see if anybody wanted to ask them any questions or talk to them about their designs, and just have some refreshments available as well. So
Do we know yet if they can come?
what's that? No, I
Have you
haven't.
invited them yet?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to send that out this week and see if they're able to come. So Mimi, I will be probably getting their emails from you so we can send that out and get things going for that.
One little bit of news, somebody reached out to me today because she so loved Emily Morrison's piece that she wants to hire her for a commission. So several of the artists have gotten commissions, and it's still
Wow.
going on.
That's great. Good. Thank you for that information. If you could just send me the emails of all three of the artists, that would be great, Mimi. Thank you. Any other discussion on that, or girl? So we haven't taken any votes yet. That's great.
Before we, Helene, the artists, is there any place on the signal boxes where they're, other than their name, but maybe their contact information or something, can we, I don't want to say that they promote themselves, but they can get in contact if someone could reach them just by looking at it without going through a committee?
That's a good idea. Is that something
No,
that feasible, Mimi, or?
I
They
don't-
could,
I don't
know
know if
some
they'd wanna
places
put
that
that
they
out there
put like
on-
their Instagram handle on
Yeah.
it.
Maybe like
They-
that.
we didn't say that they couldn't, and I'm not but we could, go and invite them to touch it up with.
Yeah, they could add that if they wanted. Yeah,
Yeah,
Good.
maybe when you're reaching out to them, Helene, for the party.
I could do that. Yep, I'll do that. Great, that's a good, really good suggestion, Sue. Thank you. All right, Sue, I put Sue B down for this, but it's really Sue B. And we were just, and I think we've already started this discussion, but we wanted to have people begin to think about future projects for this year. So, we know what we will need for our budget and all of that sort of thing. So, Carlene came up with some things tonight, but I would invite everybody to, by our next meeting, really think about some future projects that you might or might not be interested in doing, but maybe moving forward with some projects that are of interest to everyone. Does anybody have any off the top of their head tonight that they want to talk about?
Margaret.
Any burning things that you want to discuss?
Is everyone laughing? Because I always raise my hand about now. Well, I have two things. One, I just want to keep you all remembering that, and it's kind of along the lines that Carlene Hempel was, the point she was making is, we have to maintain the things that we already have,
Right.
and think about that. So, keep in mind, one thing with the murals, there's been discussion, we've talked about doing this, and I think Chris was interested in taking it on as a guided self-tour of the murals. And I don't think it has to be that complicated, maybe not that expensive. And hopefully Chris is still, interested in heading it up, where there'd be a little plaque at each mural that would have a map. And I don't know, would it have a QR code? It'd be nice if they could do it without necessarily having to know how to do it and have a cell phone. But so the mural, the self-guided tour would take you from one mural to another, right? We've discussed that. So I hope you keep that possibility in mind. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is one that Ann Mock and I have discussed, And this is a much bigger project. Maybe it's one that would be done in increments over even 2 or 3 years, which, and it's Anne's idea. So jump in, tell me if, I'm misrepresenting this, Anne, but it's to create an art alley that would be between Concord Outfitters and Lawless Upholstery. And if you look, there's actually it's the widest alley in West Concord, I know, because I've looked at every possible alley. And it's wide enough to really be kind of fun, but still be an intimate kind of space, but a comfortable place to go into. And I'm imagining right now it's grass that was recently cut because Andy had the building painted. So it looks gorgeous. I love that he paints that red on his building. And I imagine pavers in there. I mean, it'd be great if that was part of the art. You could have, it could be covered with mosaics or tiles that people paint and put down. And then on the wall, I mean, there are all sorts of possibilities for what might go on the wall. I would love to see kind of a changing exhibit, rather than having a mural that's up, it's just static, but having things that kind of come and go. And so you go in and see what's going on. If you had an archway, of course, that's kind of nice, a sort of an invitation to go in there. And I guess I just want to make one more point about the whole thing, that there was a time early on, back when Carlene and I were on the committee, and we started doing the mural project. It was a concept in the committee that we would create enough public art to really draw people into West Concord, like make it like people come here for that, but then they stay here for other stuff, or they come for something else and then they linger and they do things. And I guess in my mind, I feel like maybe we're close, but we haven't really reached that. I think you have to have a certain amount of things for people to come look, for them to bother, for it to get to that level. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Like a critical shift.
A critical shift. Yeah, a kind of a quality, a real, I mean, and we're there. I mean, people already, they think West Concord's funky and cool and fun, but I think there needs to be more. There need to be, I don't know, 3 or 4 more major public art pieces that are permanent. Art for All doesn't have to do them all, by the way. It's not like I'm just trying to, at all. I want to support, us or other people doing it. But I think Art Alley would be great. It drives me crazy not to be able to put something on the West Concord Pharmacy side of the West Concord Pharmacy by 7-Eleven. If anybody has a contact with those owners, because, we could use more like over there, things sort of spread things out. And so that's my
Yeah,
take.
so I brought this up to Margot because I was in Provincetown and I passed their art alley, and it has this cool archway that somebody cut out of wood and painted. And it's really interesting because there are a lot of, it's almost like a collage, but with different artists. And there are things that are sort of overlapping, and there are things where it's like, there's even like a multimedia aspect to it, where there are things painted directly on the wall. There are things on canvas. There are things on wood. There are metal sculptures. And it's just like this really funky kind of cool thing. And so I sent a photo to Margot, and we were sort of chatting about it, and it was exciting. And it was like, yeah, taking a space that really is not a destination and making it one, and also making it it's sort of like, Harry Potter, how there's like the little wall that you jump into. It's like, if you're in the know, and it's sort of it's like a little secret special thing that people might want to come to see. And it reminded me of years ago, I presented with an art teacher who, her whole thing was about like taking spaces that had been divisive and using them to connect people. And I'm not saying this alley is divisive, but it brings to mind one of her examples. And I want to say this was in like Seattle or somewhere. It was in a bad neighborhood And I know another one is in the Mission in San Francisco. That was another where alleys were sort of like where all the unsavory things occurred. And these cities took the alleys and made them into these places that showcased the local artists' work. And so they gave the artists a place to showcase their work, but they also made the alleys, they made people want to go to the alleys to see the art. So they weren't just places where people were like, you know, doing things like shooting up heroin or graffitiing, but the alleys became destinations into and unto themselves. And so I just think it would be another, to Margot's point, cool way to incorporate more art, a lot of surface area that nobody is going to feel particularly possessive over because nobody's, as it is, looking at it. And so that could be a great way for us to showcase a lot of art and do something sort of like the signal boxes where maybe we even let different artists apply to have their art showcased on it.
Do we
Love
know
that.
who owns that space?
Yeah, so that's between, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing it's a combination of Andy, I don't know his last name, who owns Concord Outfitters, and then Shane Lawless. And my experience with Shane is he's up for anything. Like, do it, he'll say. And then Andy will be like, oh, maybe. Let me think
So
about that.
that's another space we have to look into as to see if
Yeah.
doing something like this is feasible.
Yeah.
Well, I can add that to the list with Carlene if you want.
Well, it
so
looks
I
like we're
will-
off to a good start in terms of thinking of some future projects, which is great.
I had just a couple of things that came to me when I was talking to artists. One gal showed me a project she did. Now, the trouble we're having with the decals makes me think, I don't know if this would work in Concord, but she worked in some towns where they painted the crosswalks with a street paint, you know, the kind of paint they use to put lines on streets. But they put out a call for artists and the artists jazzed up the crosswalks, which was kind of cool. And another thing she did was just taking sort of like the railroad ties kind of things, you know, but you know, that withstands the weather. And they did art on those, sort of like totem poles or just, you know, any other kind of art. And you just pound them into the ground and there they are. And I don't have a specific idea in mind, but if we had some space that where we thought we could get people to design these kinds of things or totem pole type things and put them in there, that she said it was fun, it was easy. And I took a picture of some that she had at the Lexington art.
I think they've done that in Bedford too. I remember seeing that on one of their walking trails. They had sort of a pole project.
Yeah, it was pretty
You
cool.
know, the signal boxes where people would, you know,
Yeah.
present their signs.
And then just one other thing, Janet Anderson sent me, there's a gal new to the area. She lives in Acton who does face painting. And she's looking to spread the word. And I was wondering if we wanted to, since for they're calling it Discover Concord Day in October, at least Janet did. I don't know if it's fall into Concord or what, West Concord. We're doing the signal box celebration, but we're not really doing another little art project like we've done in the past. And I was wondering if we want to invite her to just for an hour or so. If she's willing to donate her time, maybe we could pay for the materials to do her face painting for the kids. So there would be something there for the kids. Is that something you might want to think about?
Yeah, I saw her, well, you know, she sent out something and
Yeah, it looked great. I haven't contacted her to find out
she's kind
what
of professional and she clearly wants to get paid. I think it would be a shame not to offer her. That's just my 2 cents is.
Yeah, well, I haven't
wouldn't ask her to
contacted
donate
her
it.
yet. I wanted to wait to see if you guys thought it was a good idea. I mean, we wouldn't want to spend a whole lot of money, but I think in the past we've spent what, $100 or so on
We were
materials.
recently in Colorado visiting the boy's godmother, and we went to a festival where they had face painting, and I really liked the model because it said free face painting and they were professional people, but they each had a Venmo and they had a little sign that said we work for tips. And so it was sort of a pay what you wish. But of course, they did a great job, and everybody felt compelled to pay. And so it was just
Yeah.
more like a matter of how much you were going to pay. And I don't know.
And since she's new to the area, I thought she might be willing to do something like that.
Yeah.
But we
That
may
sounds
need
like a really
money to
good
pay
idea,
that.
Ann. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sue,
Jen?
if you wanted to approach her and see if she might want to do it that way, I think Ann has a really good idea because she might make more money than what we could even offer her.
Right, because mathematically, I think people were probably paying her $10 a pop, and she was
Yeah.
doing one at least every 5 minutes. So she was making a lot of money per hour just painting faces. Yeah.
Yeah, so if she would be willing to do that, that would be great.
What do you think? Should I do it? Should I call her?
Yeah,
Jen.
wouldn't hurt to explore and find out, if she's willing to do that. That would be great. That's October 19th.
Yeah.
Can I just throw out, similarly, I was contacted, I think I might have mentioned it to everyone last spring, by a woman who moved here from Texas, who's a poet, who does poet rodeos, where she brings her typewriter, sometimes working with others, to public events, and people come up and she writes a poem on the spot for them. They give her a
cool.
topic. And she lives here now in Concord. So I will, if we were interested in having her come to, any kind of West Concord event day, I'd be happy to figure it out with her to see what her story is.
that's
That'd be great.
so much fun. That makes me think maybe for Discover West Concord Day, I'll do quick sketches, which I haven't done in a while, but.
Cool.
Good.
Sounds like fun too.
Got some good ideas there. Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else or?
So are we planning to use next month's meeting to try to pin down some projects?
Yeah, I think,
Coming
well,
year.
hopefully, if people come back with some projects, that would be great.
Okay.
So put your thinking caps on for that.
So I will
we'll
have tried to.
We'll try to talk to these park owners and have some ideas for that by the next
For the
meeting.
19th, yeah, that would be good if we could come back.
Hopefully, I'll have an answer from Public Works as well by then.
Perfect. Good.
Okay, and Anne, let us know if you need any help, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And
I
then
just wanted to mention one more thing. I don't know, Mimi, are you still with us? Carolyn Bonhams did set up a Google Drive site for us. And Sue LaChance had asked if she could put the minutes on that Google Drive site. And I understand now, Mimi, you're the owner of it?
Carolyn has an account that she should have been able to pass on to the two of you, I believe.
No, she told me she made you the owner because that way we wouldn't have to change it all the time.
Oh,
But
okay,
but we're all listed as far as I can tell, we are all listed as being able to share it. So
okay, I will look that up when I'm at my work computer because I got all my.
okay, and it was kind of confusing because she set it up apparently when you did a film. And that was rivers, revenues, and rails. And I thought, what is this rivers, revenues, and
Yes,
rails?
okay.
I had
Yeah.
no idea what was going on. But that is there so that when we do the minutes, Sue can post them there and then we can all have access to this Google Drive. Does that work better for everybody? I had to figure out Google Drive. I was not familiar with it, but.
The town's also really good of when they get posted to the town website, putting them up right away. So that's also a resource to be able to
Yeah,
find all the
okay.
agendas and
Right,
minutes.
yeah, they're right up on there.
All right, so we'll send you out. Oh, I'm not sure how to do, Mimi and I'll figure out how to get the link to you so you all know how to get there.
Well, you sent it to me, Sue, so.
Oh, I did. I copied it,
Copy that.
didn't I? I copied it. I copied it from the
Read it
top.
to everyone
I
else.
did it.
right.
I cut and paste. Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to the last point on our agenda, which is really needing to think about now a new chair, co-chair for next year, and a new clerk. we will need for next year as well. So last time it sort of got left to the very end, and Sue and I kind of jumped in to take over the chair positions, but I'd like people to start thinking about that now. We really need somebody to come forward with that. I think the co-chair kind of situation works nicely. If you prefer that, I think that way you can split the duties of what has to happen. Or if somebody really would like to be a chair on their own, that's great. But I'm hoping that by next month, somebody will come forward, or two people will come forward to be co-chairs, and somebody will come forward to be clerk, because Sue L. will be done with her responsibilities for the year for that. So just, again, put that on your agenda to think about, and we'll revisit it next month, and hopefully we will have candidates for those positions. Any questions or thoughts about that? Or Sue, do you have anything to add about?
No, I think we
co-chairing?
attached the description of what the chair and co-chair does. I don't, it's odd to me that we have to change it every year, because it
Agreed.
takes a while to figure it out. And the town, some of it is very kind of ridiculous. Like this, it was my fault that I didn't give them the agenda in time. They need to post it 48 hours before the meeting. And I was like 45 hours.
Mm.
So they wouldn't post it. But
I
it
thought
just
that,
seems to me that you know, that we have to change it every single year. It takes a while to figure it all out. So if Helene and I were thinking, well, you know, we didn't know about this till the end of the year last year.
wasn't Carolyn chair for 2 years?
No, just one.
It's
Just one. I know she did so much. It seems like 2 years.
Yeah.
And she was really organized and really good.
I think Kate did it for 2 years because of the COVID business or whatever. But generally, I think the towns, you know, the way that they do it is that you're only chair for 1 year. That's kind of how they expect the committees to work.
Yeah. So, you know, if you think you might be willing to do it, it'd be good to start now, and then you can kind of ask questions as we go along and figure out how this all works.
And it's not really onerous, but
no, it's not. It's just there's rules. Jen, yeah.
I just didn't want to forget to say this. It's not about this topic, but that Porch Fest is choosing June 14th as the Saturday for next year's Porch Fest.
Right.
great.
And we've got
Jennifer,
the
one
Rose
thing-
School. Yeah.
There's a whole ton of 250th events starting to populate. So it
Mhm.
might be worth passing that on to the 250th committee so they can kind of
Okay.
see that date. I was just at a meeting today, and it was really impressive of like all these people throwing out all these calendar things for next year.
Okay. And the other thing is, I think it's pretty much a done deal that the Thoreau School has confirmed that they are willing to be the hub next year for Porch Fest. I think we've got to work through the details more, but I think that's a huge improvement, actually.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
right.
All right, motion to adjourn, or is there any other new business, or should we have a motion to adjourn? Anyone? Make a motion?
Adjourned.
Sue, anyone second it?
I'll second.
Okay, so Sue B and Jen. So we will adjourn, and our next meeting will be October 1st at 7 p.m. We'll go back to our usual first Tuesday of the month. All right, thank you, everybody.